It's America. It's the 1830s. You know what that means. Andrew, This Land Is My Land Jackson is evicting Indians. I forgot the intro in the last episode, so here it is twice. This time, it's the Seminole tribe. God knows what he wants to do with their land, considering Florida in the 1830s looked like this, but there was destiny to be manifested, and nobody does it quite like Andy. The Seminoles politely responded no. With guns. Lots of guns. And then the Second Seminole War happens. It was a whole thing, super interesting, but kind of a tangent, which is why I've partnered with History House Productions, who can give you the whole story replete with fine art and comedy gold. This brings us to our hero, John Horse, son of Charley Horse. He's been working as a translator for Chief Osceola, who was leading the fight against the US and had even managed to nix a congressman. Despite the overwhelming odds, the war was leaning in favor of the home team. American General Thomas Jessup raises a white flag and calls for a truce. He and the Seminole chiefs got together and worked out a peace that lasted for about 0 seconds because Jessup had them all arrested and sent to maximum security prison. With their leaders in prison, things are not looking up for the Seminole. Thus, John and his fellow prisoner Coacachee hatch a plan. The story goes, they fasted for a few days, and on the night of the new moon, they took ropes made from the bags given to them as blankets, hoisted each other up to the window, pried apart the rusted bars, and made their descent along with 20 others. The exact series of events is a little fuzzy, but the point is they escaped, and it was probably pretty cool. That escape spurred on the Seminoles, who managed a few more victories, but were slowly being herded down the peninsula until they find themselves deep in the wetlands. John and friends sue for peace with Jessup, this time on their own initiative, and Jessup's pretty cool with it, since they'll have nowhere else to run the next time they get evicted. But he needs the okay from Washington. Hey guys, I got a letter from Washington. Why don't all the chiefs and I talk this over? So, of course, they like it. Unfortunately, the Seminoles really can't go much further south. When the cards are down, Jessup maintains the offer of land in Oklahoma and guarantees that the black Seminoles, such as John, will be guaranteed their freedom. So, John takes the deal, and soon enough, the U.S. gets him to convince Coacachee to lay down his arms, and with that, they say goodbye to their home for good. But at least old Johnny has some land for him and his family, and surprise, surprise, the problems don't stop in Oklahoma. Quick backstory, John was technically born a slave to his father since his mother was a slave, but slavery among Seminoles was more like being a medieval serf. Not fun, but not like chattel slavery. Problem is, in Oklahoma, the Seminoles were lumped in with the Creek, who did practice chattel slavery, i.e. there were a whole bunch of Creek slavers running around, kidnapping black Seminoles and facing zero repercussions. So John and Coacachee travel all the way to Washington, D.C. and say, look, the Seminole are comprised of a band of Creek people, but they split off 100 years ago. Can we please be on different land and not have our friends get kidnapped? Denied! But they weren't giving up yet. There was still one person left who could confirm they'd been denied what they were promised. Someone a white audience just might listen to. So, you want dinner? Gentlemen, as you may know, I once betrayed the trust of these people for what I felt was necessary, and this great nation did rightly hold me in contempt. Now the war is won, and they have returned to us in earnest faith, asking no more than what we have promised them. What shame would befall every one of us now if we betrayed them once more? Denied! On the bright side, Jessup's redemption arc continued to hold up, and he moved to Oklahoma to begin construction on Fort Gibson, offering the Seminole work and shelter, at least until a new order came from Washington, because now the Attorney General decides, wait a second, if their parents were slaves, we can't let Jessup deprive these children's parents, former owners, of their rightful property just because he promised them freedom. And thus John's kicked out of the fort, surrounded by Creek slavers, and even some Seminoles are coming around to the idea of chattel slavery now that they have to farm for a living. So he and Coacachee pack their things and with 100 other black Seminoles march for the southern border. Across maybe 600 miles, they're dodging slavers, Texas Rangers, possibly the Comanche. There's all kinds of unsighted escapades on Wikipedia too, but I can't confirm any of them, so somebody needs to clean up that page. But at last they cross the Rio Grande and escape to Mexico unscathed. There, the Mexican government gives them land in exchange for protecting the border against raiders and invaders, and there, at last, they stay. It wasn't until a few decades later that Mexican landowners tried to grab up the Seminoles' territory, so Juan Caballo, now in his 70s, saddled up to ride to Mexico City to get a confirmation that their land did indeed belong to them. After a life of hitting and running, he rode off into the sunset and was never heard from again. Bit of a quickie this one, hoping it lets me publish on time for once, but there is much, much more information out there. Once again, I strongly advise you to watch the video on the Seminole Wars at History House Productions. Until next time.